Shaunesi DeBerry. Thank you so much for joining us. You are running as an independent
Yes,
in
ma'am.
North Carolina. I mean, listen, politics it's a blood sport, my friend. What made you say I'm here for it? I'm gonna get in this race.
So, when you guys reached out to me about this interview, the thing that really stood out to me was that you understood things like women and mothers, and just in politics, things are changing. Guys, just look at it. Maybe less than 100 years ago, women didn't have a voice. We didn't have a seat at the table. Come from a very, very, very extensive background of being the only female in the room. I come from being the youngest in the room, the woman of color in the room, the more country girl in the room, and so looking at America over, especially since COVID, I'm trying to figure out who runs this place, if that makes sense. And I'm like, hey, well, there's been a lot of conversations about certain things in my life and my adversity, and then there are those things that I have a skill set in, and I actually can bring to the table with a proven track record. So let's look at what the qualifications are, and we're looking at some of the people in politics now. Age definitely isn't a question because you can, be in a position forever, right? We're seeing things like that. And you don't have to have a clean criminal background because, as we see, that's also an option too. So it pretty much looks like that politics is come as you are. And so, if that's the case, and someone else can relate to me, why wouldn't I get on a ballot and at least try? Because realistic representation matters. When I look across the board at those candidates, specific to North Carolina and other places, I don't see representation for me. And I'll be very clear, as an independent, it has nothing to do with race, and it has all to do with hard. It has all to do with values. It has all to do with competency, common sense, and just humanity. And I don't see it at all. And so I was like, what is it? What does it hurt? I know how to do my own everything you see. I do my own branding. I do my own press. I do my own everything. I do have a team that responds to my emails. But aside from that, why wouldn't I give it a shot? It can't be but so hard, especially in a digital era. Why wouldn't I give it a shot? It doesn't look like that you get like a regular job. They'll say, here is your work manual, and here are the things that you have to do. It looks like these people are winging it. And so if they're winging it, and I can have a voice at the table that has experience, that has transparency, that has be a passionate person about it, why wouldn't I give it a try? In my home state of North Carolina, why wouldn't I do it? And because my dad voted for Trump when he was alive, my mom leans more towards the Democrats. I'm kind of the child caught up in the ugly custody battle, and I'm like, you know what? Independence over here, we have a very tough fight ahead of us, but does it hurt to try? What, how cool would it be in Women's History Month, because March is Women's History Month, to say, hey, I did try. Maybe I won't win, maybe I will. We don't know. God only can determine what anything looks like. It's a very interesting world right now. But my reason, to your point, is because I want realistic representation, and I want to at least make my mark by coming to America and saying, listen, here's the reality. Here's a lot of stuff that's occurring on your tax dollars. Here's a lot of stuff that's occurring behind the scenes. This is not fake news. This is reality. And this is coming from someone who's actually experienced it. I will be the guinea pig for the adversity. I'll be the guinea pig for the scrutiny. Take it, and let's see what we can do to better our people, starting with my home state. So pretty much that's why I decided.
And I hear you say, I've got the grit. I'm not intimidated. And I also hear you say, I'm like you when you look at the voters. I've experienced injustice in the criminal system. I've experienced eviction, and I've experienced all these things. So I've walked the walk. Is that factual?
So it's beyond factual, and it's actually by mistake but on purpose. Guys, I had a silver spoon childhood. Although there was adversity there, I never wanted for anything. And and I'll reference this because your listeners need to hear transparency. I am a woman of color, but I've never known a struggle until after I got divorced, until after things happened, with jobs, family, things like that. So growing up as a child, my childhood, I pretty much was oblivious to, like, what is this struggle that what is this economy we're talking about? My parents never gave me that, right? I was blessed to go to a HBCU as well as a PWI. It wasn't until my ex-husband and I decided we were going to divorce. I was a dependent spouse. And we decided to divorce. And I'm like, oh yeah, the judges will handle it. I'll get me some child support for my girls, and I'll get a little bit for myself. And the judges in Wake County were like, we'll order it, but we can't enforce it. And I'm like, huh? I thought that was illegal. And so that's when I turned into oh shoot, I have to step up and be what I need to be, because my daughters can't have a change in their lifestyle. I can't wait for somebody to enforce, an order. It's certain things that I can't do. And then once I got on my 6-figure grind, and relocated to the Maryland, which was supposed to be the county that I lived in at that time was one of the wealthiest counties for African Americans. I made the 6 figures. But when you make 6 figures and your bills are way more, and then you have this child wants to be in soccer and that child, and you don't want to, it becomes too much. And so I started to experience things like, oh my God, I have this Mercedes. I can extend the payment one more time, but the rent, and then there's Christmas. Oh my God, somebody had a birthday. It's so many things that comes into that. And boom, what do you have? An eviction letter on the door. What do you do? Do you move your children out of their school district? What do you do? Like, there's so many questions with that. Before this situation, before I decided to, put my hat in for Senate, I had an experience in college where I've been wrongfully arrested, 18 years old or something. Fast forward to my dad passing, and I have accumulated 2 mugshots. Very, very interesting stories. You guys can look them up on your own and do your own due diligence. I would request that you do, because it's on your tax dollars. And it all targeted my parenting. I decided to homeschool my daughters. My oldest daughter graduated at 16. She got into 83 colleges. She got 800,000 in scholarships. And here's the problem. I had to lose everything. When I lost everything and I started looking at the state of the politics, and I started looking at the war on children, I started looking at the war on mental health and hidden disabilities, I said I'll homeschool my children myself. I did that on food stamps and Medicaid. People do not know that when you get those things, if you get free and reduced lunch, your child can qualify to take a PSAT or something like that for free. You waive the application fees. If your baby can read and you have internet and you have faith, you can stay up all night and you can say, you know what, my child is about to see some adversity that I never experienced. I can't call the other parent and say, hey, can you help? But what can I do with my time? And so even though I was experiencing the evictions, some were strategic evictions, some I just didn't have the money, some were harassment, it just really depends. I never stopped putting something in my children that I could control, and that was their education, that was their free thinking, that was their ability to take smartphones, the internet, and be able to see what they can do within their time and their time online. And I did that. My second daughter just graduated in January via homeschool. We finally have stopped being bothered, for clean wording, by a lot of different politics behind a lot of things, guys. I was the second vice president of the NAACP for Prince George's County. I was 40 under 40 for education. I am a whistleblower. And so because of that, being a woman, having a country accent, not knowing politics of the state of Maryland, not knowing that there are things like, men in power who may, and women and people of color, it's like, okay, you know what? I know that God brought me in this position to, if nothing else, encourage and inspire other women, other mothers, other people who are like, WTF, how in the world am I supposed to change my life, keep my sanity, do whatever I need to do, and still raise my children with a straight face? How am I able to do those things? So to answer your question, I absolutely have mugshots. I self-educated myself and got a partial acquittal in the home of Brady versus Maryland. I am waiting right now, any day now, for a writ of actual innocence on the remaining charge. That charge was brought for my child. We believe that it was harassment. We believe that it was retaliation. We believe that it was to silence us, because the fact of the matter is, there is in politics a question about public education. The fact of the matter is, in politics, there is questions right now surrounding, look at the Epstein files, protecting children. So how do you stop a woman that you may think is a woman of color, right? And you want to silence her because women are to be seen and not heard, right? How do you silence that person aside from trying to attack their children? But when you come to a woman who's a woman who says, I already went through this with my ex-husband, who also was a man in power, right? So I'm not afraid. It's 10 of y'all, but you still don't intimidate me. Or it can be a group of people. I've already broke generational curses. I've already left from the country scene of my hometown. I've already lived all over the world. I've already self-educated. I speak 4 different languages. You can't box me in. I want to make sure that never happens to anybody else. And if I can do that on the platform for politics, then I most definitely will do it. I don't see any qualified candidate. I don't know. I think I'm about tired of voting for the polished politician. I want somebody who can actually say, you know what, Shaunesi, I have a mugshot too. I've
Yeah.
been through the criminal justice process, so I know what you're saying about your due process being violated, or a child's due process violated, or a grandmother's due process being violated. I've been through. I've sat on. I built a campaign for someone. I've seen numbers change. This might not be, you know what I'm saying, a conspiracy theory. Things like that. Those are the things that people don't get to see when they're making the TikToks or the viral Facebook things. They don't get to see those things. I've actually lived those things, and it's almost scary because for the longest I was feeling like I'm the only person who, has been through this, but the universe has started connecting other people. And I'm noticing that it is a pattern. And if we, the people, don't start saying, you know what, I don't have to be a part of the Republicans or the Democrats. I'm a human. I pay my taxes. I get up and I show up for people. I have a dog in this fight. I don't care if you don't. You may have 7 million in your campaign. I may have $7. But does that really matter? And so, pretty much to answer your question, yes, I've experienced so much adversity in the last 6 years, more than my divorce. I've experienced more adversity with the government, my children being, all of us, me and all of my children have been wrongfully detained. We have multiple lawsuits in multiple federal circuits throughout the United States. And I wholeheartedly believe it is political. And so it's political because there's nobody sitting at the table. Jasmine Crockett can't speak for me. I don't believe she has children. Um, and then she's a Democrat. Donald Trump can speak for me because he's the commander in chief, but he can't go but so far because a lot of my issues are state level issues. So what do
Yeah.
we do if we do have a discrepancy with our commander in chief? What do we do when the representation for the people of color or the women of color don't align with me, right? I need realistic representation there. If nobody's going to give it, I'll try and shoot my shot.
So you'll try and shoot your shot, and you want to represent. I mean, North Carolinians are essentially saying we have an affordability crisis, we have an inflation crisis, we have a housing crisis, and they want solutions. So when they go to the ballot, they might look at name recognition just to play devil's advocate here and to push you a
Right.
little bit and say, this is a name that I recognize. This is a name that I've seen, and this is someone who I know is in the governor's mansion. It's an easy pick. What are you going to say?
So I will tell people that you have to be accountable for your choices. So a lot of the rant and raving that goes on social media, and if you equate that to name recognition, then it speaks a lot about you. Due diligence is going to be very key here. Uh, One of the main reasons that I was inspired, because I actually filed to run for Maryland in 2024 against also Brooks and Governor Hogan, but I had so much harassment I had to let that one go. So this one is pretty, it's a little bit more chill. I think I'm getting somewhere. Governor Roy Cooper, he's been in politics since I had baby teeth. And so if you use name recognition for Governor Roy Cooper and you're looking at the things that you said, the affordability crisis, the education, the laundry list of things, then you have to ask yourself, although I recognize this name, is this a name I want to check on the ballot? So then you go to Mike Watley, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And Mike Watley does a lot of talking, but I would like to see what he's actually done. And I don't want to hear that he's a Republican. I want to see the work that you've done. I actually am on an amicus brief in the North Carolina Court of Appeals to help Mike Watley and the Republican National Committee with some concerns they had about election integrity and overseas ballots from 2024. So again, I can't. It's just like a job. You can put yourself out there and they'll pick you and give you a chance, and then maybe they won't. But to answer your question, for a lot of the people that do go with name recognition, you get what you get and you can't catch a fit. So you have to hold that and understand that you chose that name recognition. It's not just me that's running as an independent. There are a lot of us. And so if you don't do your own due diligence and you have this smartphone and you're on TikTok or you're on Facebook and you didn't take the time out to just go look and say, ooh, this person might relate with me a little bit better, or I can send suggestions to this person that Governor Roy Cooper, I could never get those to him, right? It's time for people to take our stuff back. A lot of people went about it the wrong way, from going to the Capitol, demanding certain stuff. This is the route I think that needs to be taken. And as an independent, I'm here. I'm not going to beg for a vote or try to sway anybody. I want people to do their own due diligence, and we'll just see what occurs.
Okay, so talk to me about a game plan for you, your biggest issues that you want to tackle as, let's say, Senator DeBerry.
So my first and my top is court access. You cannot change things like housing affordability, things with the schools. A lot of this stuff is civil rights, guys. You cannot change any of those without being able to get into the courts. A lot of people can't get into the courts because they don't have money for attorneys. They think that they can't do these things when you really can. I mean, it's pretty simple. And with my experience specifically with North Carolina, they put a very unheard of and bizarre gatekeeper order against me. And it limited and blocked my access to the courts. And because it blocked my access to the courts, I started looking at other situations. I was born and raised in Durham, North Carolina. In Durham, North Carolina, parents can't record or talk online. I'm sorry, my apologies. They cannot talk online about their pending custody cases. Pending cases with CPS, you cannot talk about those online. So my first priority in North Carolina would be the court access, to make sure that the North Carolinians have the exact same access that people have in places like the DMV, which is Maryland, DC, and Virginia, to actually access the courts in a manner that they are able to navigate and be able to advocate for themselves. I think that's the biggest thing. Leaders create more leaders. As a senator, you want somebody who can say, listen, I did this right here. And on food stamps, you can file for free in here. Can you, what is your grade level? And if not, what is your grade level? Do you have access to the internet? And if you have access to the internet, you can go and self-educate. So my top priority is making sure that the North Carolina judiciary gets up to, because it's, we have a case right now. There's an alienation of affection case for a TikToker, $1.7 million. They're talking about the internet in courts, but they're not talking about how people can access their files, start new litigation, actually see what's going on, and help the Senate, help Congress, help your state level officials. You can start by doing your own, like you can start your own thing. If it gets denied, you have exhausted your resources, then you can bring it across to the Senate or the General Assembly. But it's a team effort. And so my first order of business is to make sure that everybody has the access that we need. And hopefully that starts in North Carolina and trickles to other states. In the state of Maryland, you can access it better than North Carolina. But a lot of the stuff that I get in my inbox, which is overwhelming, a lot of people would be able to advocate in their own capacity, like their own little senator or their own little representative for their cause, if they had court access, and they don't.
When you talk to moms and parents, what are they most concerned about in North Carolina? Is it still the economy? Is it education? Is it inflation? Is it moms that go to the grocery store? Or like you said, that you were trying to pay for your house when you were taking care of two girls in Maryland? I mean, it's still, even though North Carolina is affordable, it's still expensive.
So North Carolina has definitely increased, and this is a funny story, and it could just be me and my following. I don't get a lot of questions or concerns about affordability from single moms. The single moms that follow me, for the most part, this is not everybody, guys. They work multiple jobs. They are being bothered by CPS. They are not. There are judges that are forcing them to drive to another state to meet the other parent halfway. They're having to eat. It's eating into the money that they're making, and so it's overstimulating them, because it's like, I already have to do this by myself. If it's a mom, and you have some moms that are married, they're married women, but they are single moms. And for those, mental health, I want to focus on mental wellness. I don't want to put so much of a focus, like I believe Georgia's putting a focus on mental institutions. I want to preserve what you still have of you. So I think that we need to start looking at that, because your brain, the better your brain is, that your health is your wealth, right? So when we talk about the economy, if we're putting better things into our children, into our moms, into our fathers, I don't want to leave you guys out. Are we putting things into you guys to help you even think clearer, so that you can be competent to know that there are opportunities for you? Or are we just complaining because, oh, this economy is bad? You can blame Governor Josh Stein, you can blame Donald Trump, or we have the same 24 hours as Beyonce. Again, in the digital era, you can start knitting and sell stuff online and make money tomorrow that you may not have had. You can do ride share and gig work. You can go back to school. When we start talking about the money part, it's a lot of things that people don't look at. It, if you don't have any money, you qualify for a lot. So why don't you go and get that free trade? I heard Harvard was giving out a few free classes to help brush up on resumes. Why are we the people looking for a handout, per se, in the sense of, there are things that we could do to add to it? So to answer your question, what I get most from parents and moms alike is that there is that tension and friction in the courtroom. Everybody, they're not going to have the poster marriage. So you are going to have, we need to start having a conversation in North Carolina about the single parents, the two parent households and what that looks like. Now, North Carolina is still kind of old school. So it's kind of like, this may be a baby mama or a baby dad. It's not a husband and wife. I'm not going to take it seriously. And then that child misses the mark. So we're not even able to focus on the child. And so I think that we have to start coming back, and I think North Carolina needs a branding facelift to be in touch with reality, with what we have going on, so we can dissect those things, to look at the economy. Okay, what are we dealing with? You may have people on unemployment. Has anybody asked why? Why is this person still on?
Shaughnessy, when I hear those talking points, no, that sounds real Republican to me. It does, girl. It does. It does.
I'm not saying, and I know that people looking and say, oh, well, she supports, the current administration, blah, blah, blah. I would never disrespect who is leading. If it was Kamala, I would do the same thing. But specific to your following, because I know that that's a question you guys are going to get. I was removed from my dying father's deathbed because he voted for Donald Trump. And so because of that, I will have a respect for somebody who comes in and sees a problem, and then they do whatever they have to do. We may not agree with it, but, and to your point, it may sound real Republican, but I'll counter you with this. North Carolina was red when I was a baby. So I have conservative values that do align a lot with the Republican Party, but there are those, now, Trump, why would you say that? And I'm black and I voted for you type times. You know what I'm saying? And so I understand what you're saying, but I believe wholeheartedly, regardless of your party affiliation, we have 24 hours to make things happen. The government should be something that we utilize, and I've utilized it myself. And then we should be able to get off of it. It should not be something that's a crutch. And we do have to be able to identify, if we want to keep the economy growing, pain points, things, you know what I'm saying, to make things go better. And then those things that it's unforeseeable, or there's things that we can't do anything about. There will be people that will be in poverty. That's just the fact of the matter, right? And things that we can do to change it. But for the most part, that's my independent view.
Okay, so I think my last question would be, what role did becoming a mother have in your decision to run? And then give me your prediction on the primary.
So, and becoming a mother, well, let's be very transparent. I growing up, and all of my childhood friends will tell you, I did not want children. I didn't want any of these things. I grew up in a very chaotic household. While we had money, it still was a high level of dysfunction. And I just said I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted, you know what I'm saying, my nice townhome, my Benz, and my Yorkie, and my Louis Vuitton, and I would just be that successful girl, right? I ended up getting pregnant and I got married. And under North Carolina values and being raised in the church, obviously, I took my marriage serious. It didn't work out. So there I had two daughters, and I did not believe in letting them be penalized for the decisions that I made. And I wanted to make sure they had better decisions. So, or better experience than I had, even if it would be one parent foot in the bill. So to answer your question, having my daughters, I asked them, I said, out of all the stuff that we've been through, do you guys think I should go further? Or do you think I should just stop? My oldest daughter said, Ma, they should have known when they removed you from from granddaddy's deathbed, you weren't going to stop. They should have just let you stay there. My baby girl, who I call baby Kanye, she said, knock it over, Ma. And so this isn't just for me. This is for my daughters and for the young girls who will come next, to be able to know that I didn't start with a lot, but I got started. And because of that, my daughters are my number one cheerleaders. No matter the adversity that has came our way, they are my number one cheerleader. As it relates to the primaries, I most definitely think that Governor Roy Cooper is going to steal the show. There's a lot of money involved. There's going to be a lot of drama with those guys, but then there opens up the dialogue for people like me who are able to, get those votes that matter enough for us to come back to the table in a grassroots opportunity and do groundwork that we need to do, or find ways for us to see what we can do together in our smaller nonprofits and smaller things. So to answer your question, my daughters told me to go for it, and I'm going.
Well, thank you for joining us. And I think, typically when you see a resume of a politician, it's never linear, right? It's never perfect. And so I think just to hear you say that in real time is pretty fascinating. So I'm grateful that you joined us, and we'll just watch you as you continue to grow. So thank you. And of course, good luck. So we'll talk to you soon.